Hey, this is Nick from Cometa Camera. I'm at PhotoPlus 2016, and I'm with Lindsay at the Nikon booth. Now, we've got a couple new lenses that just were announced yesterday, and this one here is a tilt-shift lens, which I'm not personally familiar with, but tell us a little bit about what this does and what it's capable of.
Sure. So, classic photography started a long time ago, right? When I went to college, one of the things I was learning on was a view camera. View camera is a big camera with a bellows. Everyone's seen them. You put a dark cloth over your head. You shoot pictures. What made those cameras special was you can keep the camera perfectly perpendicular to the subject, but through the camera's movements, rises and falls, tilts and swings, you can control the effects of keystoning and depth of field. Keystoning is an effect that you get with pretty much every lens. If I want to take a picture of a subject and I tilt my lens upward, what happens is, instead of the lines being straight, they start to do this. Everyone has seen this, and we use it for creative purposes, right? By using a lens like this, by using the knobs on the side, I can actually shift this lens so that it moves up or it moves down, so I can keep the camera perfectly perpendicular to my subject, and those lines remain perfectly straight.
So if you were...
For architecture, interiors, and things like that.
I was going to say, if you're taking a picture of, say, a skyscraper or something like that, and because you've got a wide-angle capability here, this is a 19mm lens, you can take a shot of that skyscraper that's literally above your head, and the lines are going to be perfectly straight. You're not going to get that weird perspective.
Yeah, it's true. There's certain limitations to the distance. You got to really be smart about how you use it.
Right.
But that, in a nutshell, is what it does. Second thing, depth of field control. Okay, the classic example is I want to take a picture, and there's a white picket fence to my side over here. Well, to get the whole fence from the beginning, the middle, to the background of the fence, I've generally got to shoot at a very small aperture to get tremendous depth of field. Something like F16, F20.
And then you can start losing detail, and that's not what you want to do.
Because of a phenomenon known as diffraction. Using a lens like this, which can actually tilt left or right or up and down because it can rotate, you can control depth of field without using those small apertures. So now you can shoot at f8, maintain a very similar depth of field that you would by shooting at a smaller aperture, but now you don't have the diffraction to worry about, so you always maintain high image quality.
All right, that's pretty cool. And there are other tilt-shift lenses available, of course, in different focal lengths.
Yeah, this is the first of the widest we've ever made at 19mm. We make a 24mm. We make a 45mm, which is also a micro Nikkor, and we make an 85mm, also a micro Nikkor. That one's great for tabletop photography, small objects, perfume bottles, watches, things like that.
And this one's coming soon, or is this available now?
Those are all available. This one's coming out in about a month. This will be shipping.
All right, great. So we've got another lens that was just announced yesterday, and that is basically a new version of the workhorse of the Nikon family. This is a 70-200 F2.8 lens. It's a very popular lens, very popular focal length that a lot of people really, this is one of the things that, along with a short prime, is something that's always in their bag. So what's new about this particular lens, and how is it better than the previous outgoing version?
You know, it's funny, I've been saying this for about a lot of products for a very long time in my career. Just when you think a product is really great, and there's no way to improve it, the company surprises us by making a better product with tremendous improvements. That's not an exception with this 70-200. So the first thing they did was they changed the optical formula. They added a fluorite lens element, which has got a lighter optical property than extra low dispersion glass, physically lighter. We added a high refractive index element. So this new optical formula has 6 ED or extra low dispersion elements, a high refractive index element, and a fluorite element. And what that does is it keeps the lens really well balanced in your hand. Not top heavy, not front heavy, but very, very well balanced. That was the first big change. Second change, we reversed positions of the zoom button, the zoom ring, excuse me, and the focus ring. When you're holding a lens like this, big lens like this, my fingers generally fall on the outside ring. I, for one, use autofocus most of the time, and I touch up my manual focus seldom. I do it, but I do it seldom. I like the zoom ring out here because it falls in a natural position. On the current lens, the focus ring was out here and the zoom was back here. Next improvement. We added these buttons on here like our big lenses. We had it on a generation before the current 70-200. And I was a big fan of it on there because you can control certain features of the camera through these buttons. Well, with cameras like the D500 now, the D5, the D810, I can customize these buttons to do several different things. My favorite, AF on. I'm a big fan of using the back button here to focus and then lift my thumb up to lock the focus. I can always keep my camera on continuous autofocus. Now I can customize these buttons to be AF on. So when I'm holding this button here, I press the button, camera focuses, let it go, lock. Real simple, real easy to do, in a very natural place where my hand fits.
Now, could you program those buttons basically to have any function? Like if you wanted an auto exposure lock, something like that, could you do it with that?
Yeah, there's about 6 or 7 different functions that you can do with this, and auto exposure lock is one of those.
Okay, so another thing I understand is that this has some good weather sealing on it. There is a fluorine coating, if I got that right, and that'll keep it from getting too dirty on the front element. So
we talked about with the 19 millimeter perspective control also has fluorine coating on the front and rear, and that is great for repelling water and liquids and dust and things like that. Makes it super easy to clean. And you know, this is a mainstay among photojournalists, sports and action photographers, wedding photographers. They all have one thing in common. They can't shoot under ideal conditions. They have to shoot when the event happens. And you know what? Weddings happen in the rain and the fog. Photojournalists are out in the rain, the snow, fog, mist, whatever. Sports photographers, you know that. Get a good football game here in the Northeast on a Sunday, it could be anything is possible, right? So it's your lens, you're constantly cleaning the lens. So it makes it easier to clean, which is very, very important.
So there is an outgoing lens, and what would be the main feature on this new lens that you would say is a good reason for professionals to upgrade? Because a lot of people love the old lens, the VR2.
Sure.
And this is, obviously has a few new features, but what is it that's going to really entice people to move up to the next level?
It's a great question, because I haven't even talked about one of the most important features yet, and that's improved VR image stabilization. So we go from 3.5 stops to 4 stops. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it's major league. Okay, the second thing is when you press the shutter button to activate VR, it activates from the instant you press that button. There's no delay, there's no hesitation, it happens right away. Focus is also faster. So you put it on a camera like a D5 or D500, D4 series, D4S, D750, D810, all these kind of cameras, and the lens focuses faster. So you got faster focus, improved VR image stabilization, improved handling, better balance.
And the sport mode, the sport mode on the VR, now I'm not exactly familiar with what that does. Can you just explain that real quick? There's a VR, you can have it off, you can have it on for your regular 4 stops of stabilization. What does the sport mode exactly do?
Sure, the way VR works, and the reason why we call it vibration reduction is because in order to squash camera shake, the system has to understand the vibrations going through the lens and the camera, okay? So that's done with frequency response. When you're on VR, it's a different frequency when you're standing on solid ground than you are when you're on, let's say, a bus that's idling. You got vibration in the bus that's going through your legs, and those vibrations turn into frequencies. So we tell people to go to sport mode when you're on a moving or an unstable platform, a bus, a car, a boat, right? I was out taking pictures a few weeks ago and I was on a dock, and you wouldn't think of this, but the dock is just moving ever so slightly like this, right? That's an unstable platform to me. And believe it or not, by switching to the VR sport mode, I could see visually in the viewfinder how much more stable I was than on a normal VR mode. And that's really, really important. Again, think about who's using the lens. Sports photographers, wedding. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons to do it, but those are the 2 primary reasons. Stable platform, unstable platform, sport mode versus regular VR.
All right, so we've got a couple great new lenses that you can pair with your brand new Nikon cameras. Of course, this will be available soon.
Yes.
And we will hopefully have that by the holidays?
I will have it by the holidays.
All right, great. So you can look forward to seeing this at Cometa.com very shortly.